You're listening to the Rebel Connect podcast, powered by Rebel Strength and Performance. Community isn't built by luck. It's built by people who show up every day, take risks, and create real impact. I'm Derek Talish, owner of Rebel Strength and Performance, along with co-host Melissa Jaquinto. We sit down with Rebel members, local business owners, community leaders, and change makers. You'll hear their success stories and the way they're building community and legacy right where you live. Want to stay inspired and connected? Subscribe or follow the show so you never miss an episode. This is Rebel Connect, where local stories become lasting impact. Welcome, listeners, to the flagship episode of the Rebel Connect podcast. Melissa, you ready to rock?
I am ready.
Very nice. I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah, it'll be good.
So, first and foremost, if you know us...
I'm so sorry.
But if you don't, if this is your first time listening, welcome, first of all. And, thank you for coming on today. We want to, first of all, tell you guys a little bit about ourselves and who we are and basically why we started this podcast.
Yeah, we're super interesting, if anyone is wondering. So interesting.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Derek is addicted to coffee. This is his second cup. It is only 10:19 a.m. on projection for about 7 cups today. And we'll see how he does. We'll keep you updated.
The caffeine is always flowing with me.
Oh, yeah.
This is absolutely true. But I want to articulate why exactly we started this podcast. And that is to highlight and celebrate the people in North Jersey making an impact in a big way. I want to celebrate wins. We want to celebrate influential people who are doing some really incredible things that maybe the rest of us don't know about just yet. So with that said, Melissa, I want to dive into your background, why you're here, and give me the Spark Notes version of you for our listeners.
Yeah, so I am the head coach and head of sales at Rebel Strength and Performance. We are located in Fairfield. I've been working there for over 6.5, getting closer to 7 years, which is kind of crazy. But I went through the whole rebrand. We used to be Revolution Strength and Conditioning, and now we're Rebel Strength and Performance. So I've been through this entire brand, right, from start till where we are now. And I love it, obviously. But I've seen so much. I've met so many people, and I've seen so many people make insane progress in the gym, but not even within Rebel, but outside of Rebel too. So I'm really excited that we are doing this podcast and highlighting all of those people within the Rebel community and outside of the Rebel community for kind of giving them credit for what they do, because a lot of people do a lot of really cool things. But yes, I've been at Rebel for a while now. I have a degree in exercise science, so I always was an active person growing up, always played sports and things of that nature, and then kind of grew into loving fitness and wanting to help other people with that too.
Yeah, well, that all makes you sound like a really good person.
I try. You're the one, just not around you. Around everyone else, yeah.
Relevant. So with that said, I guess it's a good transition. I've known Melissa since she was 14 years old. So my wife, Erica, who I own Rebel Strength and Performance with, trained her originally.
Yes.
And, continued to for a while. We knew Melissa all through her high school, all through her college. And, right around the time of college, kind of more or less in the middle of it, she decided that she wanted to pursue training and exercise science as a career. And that's where we kind of stepped into a little bit of a bigger role in your life.
Yeah.
That said, for whatever reason, you found that it'd be appropriate to spend even more time with me on a podcast today than usual, and I am forever grateful for that. In terms of, my backstory, the gym was created about 8 years ago. I've been a entrepreneur and what I would consider to be an entrepreneurial spirit I've had since I was maybe 13 years old. And that has kind of bled into everything I do. I've had passion towards pretty much every work project I've ever had. I really found my groove within the personal training realm. End of high school, early college, and kind of grew into that and continued to build from there. Now, that said, Rebel was built and created as Revolution Strength and Conditioning.
You don't even know anymore.
Revolution Strength and Conditioning was first made in 2016 by Eric and I. And then we rebranded and everything like that after the pandemic, had a little bit of a new look. Rebel Strength and Performance was conceptualized and created. And, the big thing that I want to highlight is this podcast primarily exists because the first thing was the acknowledgement and look around the community that we have within our four walls and how incredible it is, how much they lean on each other, all the amazing things that the people that we see on a regular basis are doing piqued our curiosity. And, we love the West Essex Caldwell area. And then beyond that, of course. And, we wanted to explore and highlight those, like you said, that are making a huge impact in the community, that are big influential figures, and celebrate them. So, that's really the big thing, SparkNote's version of your hosts and why we're here today for this.
Yeah, and I actually just wanted to mention that kind of ties into the whole community aspect of it. It's important to quickly say why we changed the name from Revolution Strength and Conditioning to Rebel Strength and Performance. It was really Derek's wife, Erica, that pioneered the whole name change. And she said that Revolution didn't fit the clientele we were training anymore, and that, for lack of better phrasing, our clients are more badass than that, right? So we kind of sat there and we're like, oh, you're right. Like, this is, people deserve a little bit more out of our name because it represents the people that we train on a day-to-day basis too. So I think it's important to say, we train some tough people who are busy adults. They have families to support. They work full-time jobs, and they're still making time for themselves and their fitness.
I want you to dive deeper. Describe the people that we train. When you say, we train some real badasses and, we train some real rebels. Like, I know that you don't mean the most crazy, incredible fit people that you would think of, right? And our members are super fit.
Yes.
But they're not, they're not that super extreme. So give me a little bit more about what you're describing.
Yeah. So when I say badass, I don't mean deadlifting 600 pounds, doing crazy things. And some people do, do some heavy stuff at Rebel. But I more so mean in the fact that they are people that have so much going on. Everyone has their own story. We really have made some great personal connections with the people within our community. And we see what they go through, basically. And everyone goes through stuff in their lives. And we've seen people go through some crazy stuff within the Rebel walls and outside of the Rebel walls, whatnot. But they are busy people, right? And that's what I consider to be a badass, is not someone who has all the time in the world to go to the gym and spend 4 hours a day at the gym. It's the busy parent, the busy working adult that can get themselves in the gym for 45 minutes to an hour just for a sliver of their day to say, I deserve to do something for myself. And that is what I consider to be the badasses within our community.
And I'll tell you what, too, what you're saying is kind of reminding me of a conversation I had with a member just the other day. They told me that one of, if not the greatest things that they enjoy about Rebel is, from the top down, the complete lack of ego from everybody in that building. And I kind of, people talk about the community most, I think. And this was a specific thing about the community, which I really appreciated her highlighting, is that from the top down, staff, ownership, there is zero ego in Rebel. It's a facility that does not have mirrors, for one. So you don't have the inherent, we're so kind of blind to that sometimes, where when we go to a commercial gym, you realize how vain everybody can be. And don't get me wrong, we're not afraid of them, but we don't have mirrors in our facility. We're a little bit more focused. There's not tremendous ego at all present in our gym space, let alone with our staff and our members. And that's something that people really enjoy.
I think that kind of is what differentiates us, in our area, is that we always say relationships first. That's our R in Rebel, right? And that is what is driving our community forward, is we focus on the relationships of the people in front of us. Of course, are we there to help them with their health and fitness? Of course, that's the forefront of everything. But the relationships that we make with people are kind of why our community is as strong as it is.
1,000%. And that's, something that we're always focused on, is how do we cultivate and appreciate all the relationships in front of us, and, a big part of why we're here now. And, that is a big differentiator, I think.
Yeah.
I think that the staff is so relationships oriented at Rebel, and the way that they've grown as a team is really super impressive.
Yeah.
And you have a lot to do with that. And, the reality is of your journey at Rebel has progressed so much. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on, where you started with it and where you've kind of progressed to, and how your mindset has changed through that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even really know that I wanted to train people at first. I just knew that I loved fitness so much. It was something that I sewed into my life and kind of grounded me within my own life. And I knew I loved it and wanted to pass that on in some way, shape, or form. And it was just something I was super interested in. So when I had the opportunity to start working at Rebel, formerly Revolution, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just there, and I'm like, okay, I love fitness. I love the gym. I love Erica and Derek. They're people that I have surrounded myself with for the past, few years of my life. So I'm like, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens, right? So I originally was front desk, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day. I was only front desk for 3 months, and I remember being behind that front desk and hearing sessions go on and be like, wow, I need to be back there. Like, I just want to be back there so bad. And when I finally had the opportunity to start coming back, it was really the community that draws you in the first place. Of course, I wanted to train people, but I'm like, I love the people around me, right? And there's this phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think that's
I've never
why,
heard that.
yeah. And that's what I think we kind of do at Rebel. We attract people that are like us. We always say we take training seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And that's what I love about it. And over time, growing into the brand and everything and growing into the back end of things, my mindset has changed tremendously. Originally, I was like, yeah, I'm going to train people forever and ever, and I'm going to live happily ever after. And then I started to see there's more, right? I'm like, there's more I can do to help the business. There's more I can do to help the people in front of me. And that's kind of what continues to drive me on a day-to-day basis is like, we are such a big role in people's lives, whether we realize it or not. And just being nice to people, offering out a helping hand is all people need sometimes to like cheer them up on a bad day or anything like that. I'm like, I can be a role in that so easily by just reaching out and helping, right? So every day, all I want to do is, okay, how can I help the people in front of me? How can I better serve the people in front of me so that they're successful in their lives? And that's kind of what keeps me going. And that's where I see, when I think about the facility going on in the future, it's how can we help more people? How can we better serve more people so that, one, they get more fit, they reach their goals, but two, they're more confident in other aspects of their life too, because there's so much carryover between the two.
1,000%. And, one thing that we always echo that to piggyback off what you're saying is, there's certain things that we help with as coaches at Rebel that can't be quantifiable. And from two people who love to quantify everything, it's sometimes challenging to remember that there are little wins that people are experiencing that you don't even realize. And you'll never know how you're positively impacting somebody else's life through fitness, right? But we're able to help people get back time with their family. They're going to have more quality time. They're going to have less pain. They're going to be able to do more. They're going to be able to be more physically. A lot of our adult members are, going to be or are grandparents, and they're able to play with their children, their grandchildren. The parents are able to more seriously play with their own kids. And a lot of our adults have teenagers, and that's you need to be physically fit, and those things are helped on a regular basis. And sometimes we don't always see that, right? We don't always hear about that, but it's the truth.
Yeah. And I think like we are so lucky in the positions that we are in because we see the transformation happen in front of our eyes and we don't even realize it sometimes. And sometimes you do. Sometimes you have these huge aha moments with certain clients where you're like, wow, remember where you started. And now look at where you're at now. But we don't even think about it sometimes. The day one person in front of you and you just see them transform within the gym and outside of the gym. And, we get to kind of pioneer that change, which is really cool.
One of our members, I won't blow up her name, she had almost no use of her left arm. And it wasn't because of anything like super wrong with it. She didn't have any muscle tear. She was always a right-hand dominant person and just continued to always use her right arm. And she didn't have anything that was really wrong with it, but she did continue to favor that one side. And she realized through training at Rebel, and she knew as well in everyday life that she didn't have a very strong left arm. And I remember her being so challenged on that one side. Like her grip would not be there. And it really affected her life. And now I look at her in the gym. She was here yesterday. She was there yesterday, and she looked like a completely different person. That is a perfect example of somebody who's enriched their life through strength training.
Yeah.
right? And that's such a blessing. And like what you said, it's something that we echo and that we understand through our entire staff. How much of a incredible experience it is to be able to be a part of that in somebody's life.
Yeah. And kind of turning it over to you a little bit, really, what is your why? What kind of keeps you going on a day-to-day basis? Obviously, you and Erica started this business from the ground up, and it's completely different than what it was when you first opened. But now, in the current phase that you're in the business, what do you feel like? Like, what is the reason you get out of bed every day and keep going to Rebel and building it up?
To the energy that I do it with, right? That's really it, because I could, I coach a little less than I used to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still want to coach, and I always will. Um, what is my why? Number one is my family. I have a family of 7, and that is something that is a huge responsibility. So I want to continue to build Rebel and be a good leader of both the facility and my family, and be an inspiration to my children. Now, that being said, that's on the personal side, and on the business side, I want to impact as many lives as possible. Like you said before, something that we do not take for granted at our facility is, like we've been talking about, the impact that we have on people. And every single person that comes into Rebel is an opportunity to help, right? And that's really something that we really, truly live by. I also want to cultivate a phenomenal staff. I want to make sure that these people that are in Rebel are in some ways extensions of, our hands, and make sure that, they can enrich their own lives through working with our company. I care about our staff. I would put my care for our staff up against probably any entrepreneurs. My staff at Rebel is like a family. It truly is a tight-knit crew. Nothing more beautifully showed that when, I watched you guys after a long 7-hour morning shift, where you guys probably serviced, a tremendous amount of people in 7 hours, and there you were, like playing a game with each other at the end of it for 10 extra minutes, just hanging out.
It was a thumb war, actually.
Oh my God, it was intense.
Give it the respect that it needs.
It was intense. But, I know that is a huge thing. Like, I love working with you guys directly and making sure that, there's the educational component for our staff, and, we're always looking at things to do better. I am never satisfied with the way we do certain things at Rebel. I'm always looking to improve that. And I think that's so important.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because, people come and they compliment you and this and that. And then I think me and you are sitting here like, well, we could do this better. We could do this better. We could do this better.
We're our own biggest critics.
We are. But it's also a good thing, because it shows that we care about the business in front of us and the people in front of us. And we know that they deserve better, and that we can do better for them. Which I think is something that we both are constantly working on every day. Like, how do we make this better? How do we make it better for the people in front of us, so we can make sure that they get the results that they deserve because they're putting the work in,
Our core values for our staff first, and of course through our members as well, is be consistent, remain driven, and stay humble. That is something we live by every single day. And when we go to hire somebody, we have to ask 100%, are these values that this person lives by as well?
Yeah.
So, that's a big part of it. Culture from the top down is something that is not by accident. That's not by accident. It's 100% intentional. And it's something that has to always be worked on. So I guess that's a long answer to your question. Like, what keeps me going? It's kind of like building something amazing. I want to continue to build something amazing that can help so many people. And, the one thing that I want to touch on, and I know that we're not going to dive fully into how we do things on this podcast. It's more talking about us and, kind of what our mission is as a company first, and then as this Rebel Connect podcast plays out. But, I would love to hear, you're the chief programmer, right? So give us a rundown of, if I'm somebody who hasn't heard about Rebel yet, I know it's a gym, but what do you do at Rebel? And I'll kind of defer to you. Like, what kind of training is it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we run a semi-private personal training model. So basically, it's small group sessions with personalized attention and personalized programs the entire time. So You always have a trainer and a coach that's taking you through your workout every step of the way. No one's ever expected to do it on their own, right? It's not like you just come in, you get your workout in, and you leave like you would, at a big box gym. So coach guided to make sure that you are doing movements correctly. If you have any injuries, to make sure that we are doing you the service you deserve and not hurting you and helping you feel better and all of those sort of things. But the program itself is full body every day. And I would say that we focus mostly on strength training. That's where we've seen people make their most results, is through some structured strength training programming. And we do full body every day, which is funny because some people are like, what do you mean full body every day? Like, shouldn't I do my legs one day and then my arms the next day? And I think that's really common within the fitness industry of you have to do this training split. You have to do upper, lower, this, that. But we don't do that, and we've seen a lot of success with that for a few different reasons. Full body helps manage fatigue, right? So like I said, our primary members are 40 to 60 years old. So they are busy adults. Trying to get in 3 times a week is difficult for a lot of people based on their lifestyle. So we do that so that they can go about their day-to-day and not be super crazy fatigued all the time, but still move towards their goals, right? And then they don't miss anything. So it's not like if, Monday's legs and they miss Monday, that they miss legs that week. So we're making sure they're hitting everything. And that's kind of how we run things, so that you can come in any day and you're always going to hit every muscle group and reach your goals.
That's a great point. And, there is flexibility in the program to, make sure that we're hitting some things more than others.
Yep.
That's what we do too. But I didn't think about that like right away when asked the question, is like, you can have somebody, and this is what you avoid by being our in charge of all our programs, Melissa, is you can have somebody who, if unfortunately they miss a session, that they don't run into a situation where they haven't worked out their lower body in 2 weeks. Whereas like now you're doing a full body, you're getting the most out of your workout. You've got a cardio component too. You're hitting all the boxes in terms of strength training. Our members are all looking to be stronger. They've all heard those buzzwords from their doctors, right? You talk about strength training, you talk about bone density. We want to avoid osteoporosis, right? Arthritis is that creepy word that kind of starts to rear its ugly head in our social circles. And those are all things that we're looking to combat against, right? So I really love the full body splits for that reason, making sure you get a full body workout every time you're in.
It also provides flexibility for a lot of people. There's no pressure, right? There's no pressure of I have to get in on a Monday or I'm going to miss this. And now you feel like you're missing out on your training. So you never have to have that pressure of I have to get to Rebel on Monday. I have to get to Rebel on Thursday, right? Now it's I can go to Rebel whenever I want and I'll hit whatever I want. And we personalize those programs to the people in front of us too, because obviously everyone has different goals. So every single coach underneath our roof knows every single goal of every single client, right? So we do that to make sure that we are doing our job and getting people towards their goals, but really making sure they're hitting the things that they want to hit.
I picked up a conversation where you left one off the other day, and I knew that you had talked to somebody about, a particular goal of theirs, and I referenced it to them. And they looked at me and they were like, wait, did I tell you that? And I was like, no, but you told Melissa, and we pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
We are all on the same page about you at all times.
Yep.
So that's a big thing.
It's important.
And, what, again, another question for you regarding that is, what do people, when they first sign up at Rebel, give me like the first thing that maybe surprises them that they didn't know they were going to get when they signed up for this experience?
Ooh, that's a hard question.
It is a hard one, right? Because they come in, right? If you're, again, listener, if you're not yet a member of Rebel, you're coming, you're thinking about it maybe, and you want to experience this cool community, everything like that, and these workouts too. What are they maybe not seeing right now that some members do when they first sign up?
I think the community is the biggest. You don't know what it's like until you're in it. And I always say to people, the hardest part is coming through the front doors, right? We always say it's difficult to raise your hand and say, I need help, right? I want to move my fitness in the right direction. Can you help me? That's hard to do. But walking through the front door and having the courage to do that is really difficult for a lot of people, especially fitness culture can be toxic at times. So there is that initial fear of some people of judgment, of I don't fit in here, of am I going to be okay? Is everyone going to be staring at me? Am I too far behind, right? And I always reassure people, we're here to meet you where you're at. This is your journey. We're just here to help you. and we have a welcoming community, but I don't think they actually feel it until they're within a session and everyone's going up asking what their name is. Oh, where are you from? And then they find mutual connections and they're like, wow, these people are really nice. And I don't think people expect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get that. And, I think that with that said, like over the first month too, like, experiencing what we do from a program perspective and what you can do in your first even month training here. I don't think many facilities can do what we do and impact people's bodies the way that we do.
Yeah.
In that kind of a manner. And I do want to share like the results of like one gentleman who, I'm going to use a different name just in case he doesn't want me to use his name. I'll call him Matt. And Matt signed up for Rebel and he had been to physical therapy, 3-4 days a week for a while. He had some issues that were really lingering and, he committed and he really said like, all right, like this is replacing my physical therapy. I've done X, Y, and Z here and I'm ready to take it up to the next level. And, to, the staff's credit, this guy, he spent his first 5-6 weeks at Rebel and he had tremendous body changes. I think the guy dropped like 5% body fat in 5 or 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing too with when you really commit to it is the fast track results.
Yeah. And I'll use another example, won't use names, but one of our members, she did a 3-week trial, try it out, see how she liked it, see if she wanted to commit long term, told me she wanted to lose some weight, take some pressure off her joints, has knee problems. And by week 3, she looked at me and said, I have to keep doing this. And I was like, okay, like, why do you feel like you have to keep doing this? And she said, I walked 6,000 steps and I haven't done that in years. That's after 3 weeks of training twice a week. It's not even a long time. It's 2 hours a week. She did 6 sessions. Mm-hmm. That's it. Just 6 sessions. And she was already like, I feel better. I'm doing more than I did 3 weeks ago. And I have to keep going to see what I can do.
That's the thing. You don't need to be in pain. There's kind of this story that sometimes we fall into and tell ourselves that, if you want to call it the aging process is just a part of it. And, the reality is if you do little things here and there to take care of yourself and, prioritize certain things in your life, then you can have such a more physically, mentally enriched life.
Absolutely.
And, that's one of the most exciting things for us to see, I know. Mm-hmm. Now, Melissa, it looks like we're just about out of time for today. I think this gives a pretty good first episode view of what we're looking to do and who we are. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this flagship episode. In the future podcast, keep an eye out. We are going to be diving into member success stories at Rebel, local entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners, anybody that you can think of that is super exciting, influential, and going to be worth listening to. So thank you so much, guys, and have a great rest of your day.